Okay, so we are going to work on step number one of the Money Mindset Intensive program. This is one of the most important steps. So, regardless of whether you'll be participating in the live calls or if you will be participating more anonymously, you are encouraged to send me your results from these brain dump exercises. Now, you can do this on your own. I'm going to teach you what to do with this information that you uncover, and you can work through it on your own, and you are encouraged to work through it on your own. But let me just say that the reason that I am inviting you to send me what you're uncovering here, even if it is only a few of the things that you identify that are going on at the subconscious level of your mind around the subject of money, business, success, the things that maybe feel a little more challenging. Maybe you are using some of the different tools that I'm providing you with, and for whatever reason, don't feel like you're able to shift the negative emotional charge that you're feeling on those beliefs that you've identified. Send them to me so that I can work through those on the live calls. Your name will not be included as I'm working through those things. So you can rest assured that you can still feel that sense of anonymity and confidentiality as you're getting that extra level of support in working through your issues. Some of them I will also use as inspiration, if you will, to create additional tools that can help everyone who's participating, whether that is creating some EFT content, releasing content, hypnosis content, affirmational content, etc. Because there are going to be certain themes. We oftentimes do have a lot of similar conditioning that comes from family and society. Doesn't matter what religion you subscribe to, or if you don't even consider yourself religious. We hear so many of these common themes weaved in as a collective. So even for those of us who are in different countries, there are going to be some recurring themes, and I want to make sure that those things are addressed in more of a bigger way, so that everyone can benefit from them, and for those things that may be more personalized, more individualized. So for instance, if I have you doing this brain dump exercise, and I'm going to go through this in just a minute, and you identify that you have some limiting beliefs around money because of a specific experience that you had in childhood. Well, obviously that is going to be very specific to you. If you're working through that and you're still feeling like it has a negative pull on you, I want to make sure that you're sending me information about that so that I can help you directly in maybe that more indirect way where we're not working together necessarily one-on-one, but I am tapping through specific incidences in an anonymous sort of way on the live call so that you can work through that. Okay, now let's get into the brain dump exercise. So this is a process that I want you to do multiple times throughout the 5-week program. When we are working on these subconscious programs, what you've got to remember is, even though we refer to them as subconscious, because it's not something that you're maybe consciously thinking of or consciously aware of, there is still actually an awareness of it. It more often than not is that you haven't really looked at it and seen it for what it really is, seen the belief in a way that you can have that clarity, that aha moment, that realization, hey, wow, I did see that growing up, and I can now feel how that is influencing my beliefs about money, or my beliefs about being wealthy, or my beliefs about being aggressive and pursuing my goals. So you're going to need a notebook and a pen. And I would encourage you to even have maybe a separate notebook and pen just for this program. Now, I want you to commit to 5-10 minutes to sit down in a quiet environment where no one is going to be disturbing you, meaning the TV is not on in the background, you're not listening to music, you're not listening to something else, you don't have kids that might be requiring your attention. This really, if you really want to do this work, if you really want to get results, you have to be committed to do this full out. So take your notebook, take your pen, in your quiet time, setting the intention that you are going to really look at all of your beliefs, memories, and associations with money. So this really is a brain dump exercise. Now, here is what essentially I want you to do. On your piece of paper, I want you to write down everything that you can recall about money, anything that you recall ever hearing, whether you think you believe it or not, okay? Even if you think you've worked through it with some other program, some other technique, some other methodology, maybe you even believe that you've completely shifted that issue and it's a non-issue. If it comes up, just write it down, okay? So everything you've ever heard, everything you've ever seen. Now, this is important because it's not just about what we hear our parents say about money or what we hear in our family or our community, what you hear on TV or in the news, what you hear about what your grandparents experienced when they were young or your parents experienced when they were young. I want you to also write down the things that you've seen. So what I mean by that is oftentimes our parents try to protect us. So they say one thing, but their energy and their behaviors are actually projecting something very different. So if you have seen your mother, for instance, just using a very hypothetical example here, crying in her bedroom when you were little, and you knew that it was because she didn't know how she was going to buy groceries. You didn't hear anybody saying limiting things about money, but you saw it and you felt it. So I want you to purge. I want you to deep dive into your memory bank here and write down everything that you have heard, everything that you have seen on the subject of money. And I want to also emphasize here that, yeah, a lot of it is going to be negative. A lot of it you're going to be able to say with a fair bit of confidence and certainty, that's not positive money conditioning. But I also want you to write down the positive things that you've heard and seen about money. And there is a very important reason that I want you to include the positives as well. A lot of people don't realize that they have negative association with some of their positive beliefs. And we are not able to unravel that until we actually look at the positive beliefs we have, and that triggers all of the negatives that are kind of latched onto it. So let me give you an example of this. So let's say that you have been doing your inner work and you've been very into personal development, and you've heard that having money is actually spiritual, that it is your divine right to be rich. Now, when I say that, notice that there are probably other beliefs that are attached, that gets triggered when you hear that positive belief. You've got to write that stuff down too. So if, for instance, your response to that, your mental response to that is, yeah, but I've also heard that being or wanting wealth or wanting money is not spiritual. Or you feel some type of negative emotional pull on it that maybe you haven't really ever looked at before. Like, what if they're lying? What if that's not true? So we have to be very, very, very honest with ourselves as we are going through this process. Self-honesty is where we are able to take what has been lying dormant to some extent in our subconscious mind. And when I say that, that does not mean that these things do not get triggered. They do. And then we easily, or so we think, we easily push them back, sweep them back under the rug, but they're part of our subconscious conditioning. And if we don't uproot those, if we don't rip out that weed from the roots, then it just grows back. So we want to see what's really going on in our subconscious mind, and we want to be as objective as possible so that we're not playing tricks on ourselves, which we have a tendency to do. The mind is very good at that. You will notice that you will say, oh, but I don't believe that anymore. If it's in your subconscious mind, we've got to do the work on it. So this is step number one. It is a big step. Allocate as much time as you need to do this initial brain dump. I don't want you to get hung up on what if there's more there. And try to force yourself to go beyond where you feel kind of an intuitive sense of, I'm complete with this process for now. That's why we're going to come back and we're going to redo this process in slightly different ways throughout this 5-week program. So for now, this is the initial brain dump, and it may be a big one. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. You will notice that as you're doing this exercise, some of these things you're gonna feel shift. Actually, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna notice that when you write it down, your mind is easily saying, I almost can't believe that that has been in my subconscious mind this whole time. And I can clearly see how absurd it is. And in that moment, there is a shift. And in that moment, you've shifted the energy on that subconscious program. Others are going to feel more emotionally charged. And then we're going to use some of the different tools and techniques that we're going to go through in this program to take the negative emotional charge off of those things once and for all. So they're no longer running in that sort of that script, so to speak, in your subconscious mind. So this is a lot, but it is very important and it is very powerful. I encourage you to please do this step. Okay. I cannot overemphasize how important, how critical this piece is. A lot of programs out there are covering similar processes that we're going to be doing in this program, but they're doing it without this step, or they are giving they're giving instructions to do something similar, but people aren't doing it. And what happens is when you skip this step and then you go on to clearing the different beliefs that we're talking about, you're not getting into your stuff. You've got to get into your stuff. And the only way to get into your stuff is to do the work. So please do the work, and I will see you on the other side.